Hey, 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 what's going on, everybody? Hope all is well. It is Friday evening, July 28th. This is episode 322 of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay Brainless One will be joining me shortly. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you comment in there and feel free to share this out. We want to have as many people here to join along on the ride. We had last week off, had some things to attend to, but we are back and better than ever, and we are on the road to Summerslam, and excited to talk about that, the developments that's happened this week, and some of the other developments outside of that. You know, there's a possible site for WrestleMania 41 that we could get into, possible sites for the Royal Rumble to get into. We have Buff Bagwell, who has had his fun there. What's going on with that we can get into as well.
Yeah?
Yeah!
What's up, Cousin Jay?
Hey, you know, all sorts of fun stuff. What about with you, Brainless One?
You know how it is. Living the days, living the gimmick, but it's not just a gimmick. It's a lifestyle.
Got that right. So you know, we had last week off. You know, there were certainly plenty of things going on professional wrestling wise, and certainly got a lot to get into for this week. You know, SummerSlam is next weekend. You know, also.
Yeah.
So I didn't write down any of the matches, but I do know we got the Great American Bash this week, and we have the in-ring debut of one Gable
Stevenson.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is crazy. Like, we're getting into the meat of the summer, because eventually after SummerSlam, the next thing we got is like what, All Out and All In back-to-back weeks too.
Yeah, we've got that coming up in September, and you know, WWE is going to go full steam ahead after we have SummerSlam. But I mean, with SummerSlam's next week, and the card is even more solidified, but there is one thing and one person I 100% want to bring up. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Grayson Waller keeps on talking about him. And, you know, The Rock responded to him originally, having a little fun with him, but he keeps on doing it on TV. And WWE does not like to, specifically when you're talking about a big name like The Rock, you don't want to keep on bringing up the name only to piss off people who are attending the show.
Right.
There are a lot of people who thought The Rock might show up at the Royal Rumble this year. They never advertised that. They never teased any of that, really. This one, though, they're pretty much putting their eggs in the basket of, like, teasing that The Rock's going to be there. Oh, by the way, there's a writer's strike in Hollywood, so The Rock does not have a movie he's shooting right now. I know he's a busy dude outside of just doing movies and television shows and what have you, but he is available. I think he's going to be there. I'm going to say a Stone Cold Lead Pipe lock, he will be there in person.
What if they swerve us? Because he keeps calling out The Rock and all this, mentioning The Rock and everything. What if it comes down to the time for the Waller effect or whatever, like the Grayson Waller effect, whatever the show's called, and he's like, oh, you thought The Rock was going to show up, and then The Rock doesn't show up, but it's John Cena instead. Because if there's anybody else who has got a wide open schedule now, it's John Cena. And I know they just had the thing where they were in England for Money in the Bank, and they had Cena come out, and Grayson Waller, you know, had that little interaction with him. So you could kind of use that as, like, plant the seed. Now, Cena's going to come out and interrupt, you know, Grayson Waller. Just a thought.
Well, I mean, they could have Cena and The Rock both take down Grayson Waller simultaneously.
That would be awesome.
but I believe it's going to just be The Rock alone. That's my own personal belief. Rock will be there, and he's going to blow the roof off of the Silverdome, brother.
Brother. Isn't that, it's at Ford Field. You just Hulk Hogan'd it.
What's up, Timmy? How you doing, man?
Yeah?
Speaking of the Hulkster, congratulations are in order for him. Hulk Hogan is now engaged to Sky Daily, and hey, good for you, Hulkster. I hope you didn't, I hope her dreams aren't built on, being with the Metallica bassist.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Time out real quick. Her name is Sky Daily.
Yeah.
Okay. So what he put on his Instagram was completely different than what her actual name is. And the name before was kind of funny. That's even better that her name is Sky Daily.
Percent sure. I read and wrote down Sky
I
Daily.
think you're right though, because I have Sky Baby. But Daly is an actual last name. And if her name is Sky Daily, I mean, that is the most ironic name in the history of names, but it's the Sky every day. It's Daily Sky. But yes, congratulations on the Hulkster. So not only were you the only person to wrestle 400 days in a year and the first and only person to have body slammed Andre the Giant and then killed it, and the slam killed him 9 days later and you tore every ligament in your back. You are now officially engaged for a third time, and your future wife's name is Sky Daily.
Tim chiming in. I wonder if Sky Daily was a little Hulkamaniac growing up. The bits that they did have out about her is, her and the Hulkster started dating in early 2022. She's a yoga instructor and has 3 children. So, again, good on the Hulkster. Good for you, brother. And I hope this one lasts the rest of your life.
I think I'm having my Bobby Heenan moment.
So, is this the one that they mentioned that might have been a Scientologist?
Yes, this is the exact one. The Scientologist with the name of Sky Daily is who is going to end Hulkamania, brother.
Hey, if she's a Scientologist, and Scientology is very big into getting celebrities into the celebrity wing of their religion. Maybe he'll be rubbing shoulders with Tom Cruise pretty soon, and we're gonna find out there's a story out there that Hogan is going to be in Top Gun 3. I want to, you know what? If I were a casting director, I would do everything in my power to make that happen.
I think we have a better chance of getting Hulk Hogan and Tom Cruise in a tag team match than we do of getting Hulk Hogan in Top Gun 3.
I don't think any of this will stop Hulk Hogan from saying that he almost got a part in Top Gun 3, except for he was taking a dump when they.
No, Jay, he was taking the kids to school. He's got to throw the kids under the bus. Otherwise, Sky Daly's going to think very negatively of him.
You want to talk about people throwing people under the bus?
Love it.
CM Punk. Look, I know the merch people for AEW Ring of Honor. They're run by I think it's Matt from the Young Bucks. I think it's his wife.
I think you're right.
They screwed up on a Ring of Honor shirt, and they put that it was like in the wrong city, right? Yeah, that sucks, right? Well, but Punk ended up putting it, I think, on his Instagram and putting it on blast. It's like, dude, somebody screwed up. You don't need to be an asshole. And like that's exactly what he did. And it's like, is this necessary? Like somebody screwed up, and like, guess what? I'm sure Tony Khan probably said, "What the," and had it out with her. And now you got CM Punk, like, and, and all the folks that follow him now are like going, "Oh yeah, look at this idiot," and now he's again trying to incinerate whatever relationship that he could possibly be trying to forge with the elite to try to mend fences and maybe do some business together. Now he's sitting there putting dynamite to it again.
But here's the I don't want to sit here and like I'm making this as an excuse for Punk and what he did. But this isn't the first time either. Because there's been fans, I want to say it was for the Forbidden Door. They only had Forbidden Door themed merchandise for Forbidden Door, not any for any of the wrestlers. And there was a
Right.
lot of people who went online and complained and said, well, what if I wanted to go there and get a Kenny Omega shirt? Or if I want to go get an Okada shirt or a Danielson shirt? And I can't do that. Yes. But but that's the thing. If your job is merchandise and people are complaining, you got to do something right. You got to fix it, or there's going to be changes.
It shouldn't be CM Punk doing that though.
I agree. Punk shouldn't be the one that's calling it out for what they did. It was just an honest mistake. But on the flip side, if this was this just happened once and he was pointing it out, I think it'd be worse. But the fact that there's been actual paying customers for AEW who were pissed off that they couldn't spend more money at AEW because they didn't have the merchandise they were looking for.
Hmm.
So theoretically, she's costing the company money. I know that they got a pretty penny in that deal with Warner Brothers, but merchandise makes
Right.
a lot of money.
It does. But again, I come back to like CM Punk, you didn't need to do that.
Okay, fair.
Like, I know the EVPs aren't going to do anything about it, but Tony Khan or somebody like that's between Tony and her could be like, come on, like wrong city, you put the wrong damn city. But like the idea, I mean, in general, hey, you praise in the public and you chastise in private, so you don't sit there and like ruin people.
Jay, all I'm going to say is in regards to the possibility of the Elite and CM Punk working and making money like they should, and you're going to definitely get this reference, and I know Timmy's going to get this reference. Peter Carmonis has a better chance of walking in and out of the state of Connecticut celebrated for being a human being than we do of seeing CM Punk and the Elite making money at a wrestling show.
Tim is going to Collision tomorrow and said he is going to have a report and he is going to report on the merchandise. I hope the merchandise doesn't say, Bridgeport. Connecticut.
Oh, if it says New York or Massachusetts, Timmy, you have to put them on blast on social media. Bridgeport, I might let it slide just because, Bridgeport and Hartford are almost doing the same. But
right,
if it's something egregious, you have to post it. I'm sorry.
Now, beyond that, talking about, people who complain about things or do things that they shouldn't. Kevin Owens, right before the biggest show of the summer, is out with injury. I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true. I have not checked our sources, but I heard that he ate too many cupcakes, broke a rib.
Oh man,
That's just what I heard.
that's probably the most accurate thing. And I feel bad for Sami Zayn because of the fact that Kevin Owens cracking his rib. So yes, the cupcakes is definitely a legitimate case here. But now I feel bad for
Yeah.
Sami Zayn. What do you do with Sami Zayn?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the tag team titles? I mean, Vince just put you, Triple H, in this situation of what to do now with champions when they get hurt. I mean, we've been seeing it where Liv Morgan vacated the championships because she was hurt, and then she was back a month later, and it's like, well, you probably could have waited it out, but, you played it safe. Now she's hurt again. Now we have
Yeah.
new tag team champions because we just had new tag team champions and other new tag team champions, and the WWE Women's Tag Team titles have become the TNT Championship of WWE.
Yeah.
But this is unfortunate because I'm sure they were going to plan something out for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for SummerSlam,
Right.
and I really don't know who they could have wrestled, but
They would have figured out something or some way to get them on the show. I mean, you're talking about Sami Zayn, who is the hottest thing in professional wrestling, 4 months ago, and he was still riding. He's still riding a wave of popularity and love from the fans. It's it's a bummer that he's not going to have like a title match. It's possible they could figure out some sort of singles match for him, but because there wasn't like a clear cut, like they need to go against this team, there's not a clear cut singles match for him. So he might get relegated to like some backstage segment or some in ring segment.
what if he gets involved in the main event?
I mean, that's certainly a way to bring the storyline forward. That's certainly, and it would make sense and insert him into something that's meaningful as opposed to like, oh, well, the thing we planned isn't there, so sorry, Sammy, you got to sit in the back at catering. Thankfully, no Cassius Ohno because he is now a full-time employee at AEW. But
I wonder what Tony Khan's catering budget is because it's going to have to quadruple. Because, oh no,
oh no,
Chris Hero is all elite.
All right. Mike Rainey saying, from what I read, it's not going to affect the tag titles. Now, whether that changes, we shall see.
Here's a thought. After Jay and Roman have their blow off, if Jimmy is legitimately injured and he's out for a significant amount of time or a decent amount of time, Kevin Owens is going to be out for a decent amount of time. What if after Jay is done doing whatever his business is with Roman and it's over with, what if Jay Uso teams up with Sami Zayn?
Was that the team that we ended up getting when Sammy subbed?
Yes.
And clearly they had a lot going on. Like Jay was the one who didn't really believe in him, and then eventually believed in him, and then very complicated history there between Jey Uso and the former honorary Us.
I think it would be one way if you really wanted to continue on this. I almost said Judgment Day. If you really wanted to continue on this Bloodline storyline, spooky pals,
Yeah.
and that's one way to do it. And I think that if you did if Sami Zayn's like, all right, I need a tag team partner to keep these titles, and Jey Uso's music plays, you don't think the building's going to explode?
Right. All right. So Mike Rainey chiming in. Jimmy's injury supposedly just kayfabe.
Okay.
Tim saying, could they revisit Sammy versus Roman again? I think they can. They would. I think it's tough with him being a tag team champion at this moment to be able to do both. I mean, WCW back in the day would do that. Like, I remember Ricky Morton going against Ric Flair for the world title. I remember Scott Steiner going against Ric Flair for the world title. I think I remember even Hawk going against Ric Flair for the world title. They would do that to kind of, there was a bit of intrigue of like going, hey, this is a champion going against a champion. Like, I know this person's a tag team person, but hey, maybe they got a shot.
And we've seen something quasi similar to that, because remember the Fatal 4-Way for the Universal Championship after Finn Balor had to relinquish? It was Kevin Owens, it was Seth Rollins, it was Roman Reigns, and it was Big Cass.
Yeah.
Or Big Bill, whatever the fuck he's called now these days.
So our friend Chris Brown, who is in Facebook purgatory because somebody hacked his account and he's trying to figure out a way to get back on, through our friend Jessica, sent me a thing talking about AEW being the place where big guys' careers go to die.
Seen it.
And Big Bill was one of the ones that was brought up. Jake Hager's another one. Wardlow's another one. Powerhouse Hobbs is another one, where it seems like they push them and then all of a sudden, they're losing to much smaller people on a consistent basis. I remember when Jake Hager started in AEW, he's like, I feel like they're going to give me a legit chance to do this, that, and the other thing. It's like, dude, where are you at? You were better by Vince.
You might have been the Real America, or whatever the hell it was when he did the people, We the People.
American.
But when the We the People, where we had the villainous American going up against the face Mexican, which was always my favorite thing. We the people, we're about America, and we're the bad guys. Thank you so much, Sergeant Slaughter, for that. But honestly, I don't think they know what the hell they're doing with these people. They have no idea what the hell they're doing with Wardlow. You had a chance and an opportunity with Wardlow when he had his Powerbomb Symphony where he powerbombed MJF 10 times and then pinned him. Still to this day, my favorite AEW match of all time. And yes, you gave him the TNT title a couple of times, but what is he, the longest reigning champion at 13 minutes? He was TNT champion for a cup of coffee. Who is it, Dino Man now? Dino Man's the TNT champion, right? It's hard to keep track because so many different jabronis have won that championship.
Right. I'm surprised Dino Man has kept it as long as he has.
Honest to goodness, they have no idea what they're doing.
Dino Man might be the best booked big man.
And look how long it took him. And he had to put him with Christian Cage. Think about that. You got Christian Cage gets paired up with Luke Perry and Dino Man. This was about a year ago, whatever it was. Christian Cage is now cutting the greatest promos ever in the history of wrestling. And the only person more heinous than Christian Cage in those promos was the Big Boss Man and all the nefarious things he did in the late 90s. But you look at it, and he had Dino Man and he had Luke Perry. And here we are. Fast forward. And Luke Perry has turned heel. And it's awful. That was the most scripted thing I've ever heard in my entire life, that first opening promo. I know that they're definitely going to be listening to certain people when they said that they should give him Anna Jay. It's one thing to say that you are this devious guy who's banging the hottest chick in AEW. What are you saying if she's not, locking arms with you and making her way to the ring with you? And then you got Dino Man, who all they did was they changed the colors up a little bit, improved his, presentation, and they gave him Christian Cage to learn from. And other than the fact that he's got weird kicks, Dino Man, like you said, might be the best booked big man in all of AEW. What have they done with Satnam Singh or whatever his name is that's with Jay Lethal and the Guitar Man?
All right, Mike Rainey says, I need to make a public apology to one Dominic Mysterio.
Why?
He's not bad on the mic as one Jack Perry. I'd rather listen to someone run their fingers down a chalkboard than listen to Jack Perry talk. He has zero personality. End quote.
Okay, how do I explain this? I would rather watch Kenny Omega on Yankeeography with guest host Paul O'Neill than have to listen to Jungle Jerk cut a promo. I would rather be locked in a room with Susan Waldman for 24. Okay, maybe not that bad. Okay, nothing. No, I take that back.
Clemens, and he's in George's box.
He has the personality of white paint. It's
me. Goodness.
It's just. He's bad, Jay. He's bad, and he's not Susan Waldman bad, but he's bad. I can't do it. He doesn't have the face for it. He's just a good wrestler. He's a one-trick pony. You can't get a reaction from the crowd.
He could get an but he can't get them to buy in. Let me talk to you. Yeah.
What is the old saying? He's more sizzled than steak. Is that what it is?
Yes.
I just don't see it. He needs somebody to be his mouthpiece.
He had it with Christian, and then Christian tried to pull everything he could out of him. Christian went full big boss man. Late 90s, early 2000s boss man on him, and he still couldn't get him. It's like going, all you need to be is yourself, and we need you to react to somebody talking about your dead father. Big Show dove on the casket. Jungle Boy,
wept. What they needed to do was, after he turned on Hook at whatever it was, Forbidden Door, whatever the hell it was they had Jungle Jerk off at, and then just sent him home. Don't come back for like a week or two, and just put on your DVR and watch every episode of 90210 and think to yourself, what would your father do?
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing this.
Mike Rainey says, I don't even think someone like Paul Heyman could help Jack Perry. That is a sad statement.
That actually brings up a question that I saw earlier before I went on the podcast.
Does it have anything to do with F and Mark's Hall of Famer? I'm just asking ahead of time.
It does not have anything to do with an F and Mark's Hall of Famer. Okay. It's a potential future F and Mark's Hall of Famer.
Okay.
But somebody had presented the question. It was on Reddit. And the question was, when all of this is said and done with the bloodline and Roman Reigns and everybody has just collapsed, Paul Heyman is now a free man to manage whoever he wants. Who, if you were doing the fantasy booking for this, and they said, Cousin Jay, I need you to book Paul Heyman and who he should be the new advocate for. Who are you?
I've got an answer for you. Bronson Reed. Reed. I think the big man can hold his own enough. I think Paul Heyman gives him. He takes the ordinary and puts that little extra in.
The first name I thought of was Braun Brecker. I think he would do wonderful things for that kid. He is, and I'm going to mention him later on in the podcast too. That kid, say what you will about NXT 2.0 and how much it was a freaking acid trip and they absolutely obliterated the best part about WWE for a long time, which is the black and gold brand. But Braun Brecker is the deal. He's that dude. He has so much potential. And Jay, I've never seen anybody excel as quickly as he did, because he was all right when he first got to NXT.
And he was just a football player. He wasn't a professional wrestler slash sports entertainer. I know you grow up in the game and like you see things and you kind of have an understanding of things better than other people. But yeah, he caught on in a millisecond.
He was a linebacker. Linebackers are some of the smartest dudes on a football field. Probably the most underappreciated position on the football team. He is so good. His spear is so good. He's got it. And I've loved his heel presentation. He has really knocked this heel turn out of the park since he turned on Carmelo Hayes a few months back. He can handle himself on the microphone. I'm not saying this is a situation where Braun Breaker needs a mouthpiece. I just think he would benefit from a wrestling mind like Paul Heyman to get him to that next level.
So a question I would have is, when would you envisioning that happening? Are you thinking Heyman will be free of the bloodline by WrestleMania in Philadelphia? Oh, by the way, Mike Rainey thinks that maybe they're inducting Heyman into the Hall of Fame in Philly, where, you know, he became a cultural icon within professional wrestling by starting Extreme Championship Wrestling. Well, he didn't start it. He was the one who popularized it.
I mean, if you were going to do something like that, Mick Foley lucked out, and I'm not saying that Mick Foley, you could have put Mick Foley in the Hall of Fame at any point. It wasn't soon enough because it's Mick Foley. But they put Mick Foley in New Jersey. I always appreciated that. We thought that they were going to do The Rock in Hollywood, or they could have done Dave Bautista, and they dropped the ball. Sometimes they work it out correctly, sometimes they don't. If he were to go into the Hall of Fame next year, I wouldn't be stunned. I'd be happy for him because he's, at worst, the top 3 manager of all time. Depends on how far back you want to go. At worst, top 5. But
and talking about that just briefly, Cody in an interview when was asked who the greatest manager of all time was, did mention Bobby the Brain Heenan, not Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman was asked about that in a separate, or I think in a Twitter exchange. He said, "I see what you're trying to do here. You're trying to start something between me and Cody. Cody is really good. You know, he is the 4th best performer in the Rhodes family." And then he listed off Dusty, Dustin, and then Brandy. And then it was Cody. It was vintage Paul Heyman.
Who is his uncle? Is it Tugboat? The Shockmaster?
Whom is Uncle Fred?
That's what I thought. Because it's always those two that I get mixed up. It's either Fred Ottman or Magnum TA are Cody's. One of them is his uncle. The other one's his godfather. And I always get that mixed up. Luckily, I finally watched The Dark Side of the Ring for that weeks ago, so I got better clarification.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that I saw were saying, Austin Theory.
I mean, it's not the worst idea in the world. Theory is not the greatest promo. You know, when they did the build up to John Cena at WrestleMania and they did the empty arena promo, I completely understood why they did it. You could sit there and tape it as many times as you want until he gets it how you want him to get it. The audience can throw you off. And I think as a talker, he's actually okay. It's just more of like he just has to get more comfortable when there's a big crowd there. Somebody like Heyman clearly can help him out with that. You know, you got to do like Walter, who he doesn't talk a ton, but he doesn't need to.
He's a force. He's just a
Yeah, yeah. He just comes in, says a few things, and beats the crap out of somebody.
he lets his wrestling do the talking for him. Although
And
he really could use Paul Heyman as well.
But beyond that, hey, you know, little dissension in the ranks in Imperium, though. Walter's saying, hey, I don't accept mediocrity, and said that what's his name,
Yeah.
Vinci. Hey, you're on notice, pal. Walter is undefeated, unpinned since his debut on the main roster. You are putting a tarnish on his good name by not being all you can be. So there's a little bit of whether it's dissension or just, hey, you got to be better than that. Does this mean that we get a new member of Imperium? That they did ask Dragunov, like, hey, would you be interested in becoming a new member for this group? And he's like, no. I wouldn't mind seeing Dragunov in Imperium. To be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair.
By the way, I saw Dragunov on Tuesday's NXT. Tell me he doesn't look like he's trying to save Princess Buttercup.
He may be.
I was like, is this Ilya Dragunov or is this Carrie Elwes?
As you wish. Did he say as you wish?
He did. He also said at you.
Bless you.
As sneeze.
I am a chew. This is my son. A sneeze. Mike Rainey, yeah, Walter has officially surpassed the Macho Man in number of days as Intercontinental Champion in one reign here. So he is getting closer to breaking the honkometer that was brought into fruition by one Santino Marella.
All I'm going to say is if Drew McIntyre wins at SummerSlam, I'm going to be just as pissed as I was. And you can, well, I don't know, everybody was asleep when it happened. But I'll be just as pissed as I was when Roman Reigns beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. If you're going to have Roman Reigns do all this bullshit so he could surpass Hulk Hogan, possibly surpass Bob Backlund, then for the crying out loud, after all the shit you have done with the booking of the Intercontinental Championship, you owe it to the title, the fans, and to Gunther that he does surpass the Honky Tonk Man. And this has nothing to do against the Honky Tonk Man. This is just about, if you want to be fair, let it be fair.
To be fair.
And hell, I don't even care if Gunther carries the title until WrestleMania 47. Look up his stats in WWE. How many times has he been pinned? Like 4 times? If that.
Yeah, I think. Who is it? Dragunov?
Twice. And Braun Breaker. I think that's it. I think it's 3 times he's been pinned in WWE. He's been there for like 20 years. I still remember the NXT UK takeover that he did it at when he came out. That was a clear 6 out of 5 on the Gargano meter for me when Gunther came out. Or Walter. Thank God Jeff caught that, by the way. Or F and Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe caught that.
Yeah.
Yeah? So I got one for you, Cousin Jay.
Okay. What you got?
So they did the most recent Impact show, and this I was going to talk about this last week, but we didn't get a chance to because obviously circumstances. I was going to ask you, what were your thoughts on Eric Young appearing at, what was it, Slammiversary?
Yeah. As I said before, and I'll say it again, I applaud Eric Young for having the cojones to call out Vince for his bullcrap for all that time. He signed back with WWE because Vince was gone. And when Vince signed back with the company, Eric Young knew, like, hey, I said not so great things about him, and in my view, deservedly so. He said, if you don't have a couple minutes for me on a 3-hour show, the problem isn't with me, it's with you. And he's right in that assessment. Vince should have found a couple minutes for him, and if the dude gets over, oh, fucking great. I mean, look at LA Knight specifically. Vince was not a fan of LA Knight and turned him into Max Dupree. Said he was too old, turned him into a manager. Guess what? Vince is on Team LA Knight now because guess what? He's like, oh, look at all the freaking merch that's leaving the table. Oh, huh. Isn't that shocking? A dude gets over on his own, and I've heard varying degrees of stuff, one of which is LA Knight's number 4 on the list of top sellers. I've heard from one person that says that LA Knight is number 1, 3, and number 4 for the different things selling merch-wise. And I heard another thing where it said LA Knight was number 3. All this without actually getting a fucking push. Can you imagine if they actually do anything with him? Allegedly, there is a big push planned for him after SummerSlam. Allegedly.
Right, just like he was supposed to win the United States Championship against Austin Theory at SummerSlam. Just like he was supposed to win Money in the Bank at Money in the Bank. Just like he was supposed to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That was the loudest I have heard the fans react to a multi-man elimination match since Rey Mysterio came out number 30 in 2014's Royal Rumble. They booed. He got a reaction at Madison Square Garden. You know that tickles Vince's fancy. And I think that was the same video that hit millions of views online. He did more. He does more in 3 or 4 minutes than it take. Roman takes longer to get to the ring than what LA Knight gets for TV time, and he does more for it in that time. He is an incredible talent. I've been a fan of his since Eli Drake. I've enjoyed him. I love the fact that they've now gone back and shown every little thing he's ever done, every commercial, TV show, movie. Yeah. And I think you've done this too many times where you had these opportunities to push these people because the fans like them. You dropped the ball with Rusev. Now he's squashing freaking Nick Comoroto on freaking Collision. Which
next thing you know, he's going to go against QT Marshall.
Please don't get my hopes up, Jay. If he puts him in the Acolyte or whatever it was called, and just doesn't let go, I'm gonna give him my Superstar of the Year. But you did the same thing with Damian Sandow. He was over when he was the intellectual savior of the masses. You gave him Money in the Bank, and then for whatever reason, no, we're not gonna have him cash in. We're just gonna have him lose to Cena.
After he had beaten the crap out of Cena before the cash-in.
Yep.
Like,
But Jay,
that
come on.
was that was the
Jay,
fucking insult.
Jay, the problem is that anybody else in the history of professional wrestling minus Hulk Hogan, if you severely attack them before another, in the middle of a match or before a match or something like that, they're down and you're winning. Hulk Hogan, okay, the Ultimate Warrior 2, I'm sorry, and John Cena are the only three that are just impenetrable to everything. You can hit Hulk Hogan with a nuclear bomb, and he's going to kick out at 2. And he's going to be hulking up the entire time. And even though everybody's going to be wiped out from this atomic bomb, when he goes and he points, and they're all, with their corpses, are going to say, "You!" Because it's Hulk Hogan.
I'm going to add another name to this list. I'm going to say 1990 to like maybe 94 Undertaker. Also.
Oh, my God. You want to talk about living a gimmick? That is I'll say it's the second greatest gimmick of all time, minus, second only to the Monsoon Gorillas.
It's a Monsoon Gorilla.
But they did the same thing with Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder got himself over with his internet show. I thought he was a joke. I started watching that thing. I was like, this dude's actually kind of entertaining. You gave him the Intercontinental title for 24 hours, and he was United States champion for like no more than 3 weeks.
Right.
I mean,
it was so loud in Madison Square Garden at Survivor Series at the first match The Rock was in 8 years that The Rock had to acknowledge it. He had to acknowledge Zack Ryder before he had to acknowledge the tribal chief.
Hugh Jackman worked with Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona just wrestled a wrestling match with a replica of his wife's tag team championship. Which, by the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. I am so, as much as I hate hot potatoes, you know how much I hate the hot potato championship. The only type I like are the ones that are covered in cheese and sour cream.
Yeah.
I am so happy for Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. After everything that Sonya Deville has gone through, the fact that she was, because she wasn't Mandy Rose, so she was always overlooked. She killed it in that authority figure role that she played. It helped her develop a character. She's actually not terrible in the ring. And poor Chelsea Green, when she finally got a chance to perform on the main roster in WWE, she breaks her wrist. And then she gets released. I am so happy for those two. That was a 4.5 out of 5 on the Gargano meter when Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville won the Women's Tag Team Championships. And you know me, I never am happy about anything that the women's division does because they haven't done anything in my entire life since Alundra Blaze went to WCW to be called Medusa. But and Trish Stratus' entire career, I'm sorry. And Mickey James. I won't disrespect where disrespect isn't due. There's a lot more, but after what the Bella Twins did to the division, I'm glad that we have somebody like Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville that are cleaning up the mess left by the Bella Twins. Is that better?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I did not mean to disrespect, and I could go through the list. All the ones I've already mentioned, and Beth Phoenix, and a few others. I apologize. What you were able to do as in-ring competitors.
Flair. Right? Am I right? Or
Asuka. I'm sorry, Asuka.
Yeah.
It's because I don't want her to blow the mist in my face.
Is really going to give you a talking to. She has to talk to the manager first before she talks.
Hey, I was just trying to give some respect to Alundra Blaze, who really did blaze the trail for women's wrestling in WWE. Because without Alundra Blaze, I don't think there is a women's division in WWE. Personally, but
yeah, Before you get too far, Mike Rainey's saying you don't hear too much about Mandy Rose anymore. It's like she dropped off the planet. Uh, she's still doing okay for herself. She specifically said that she doesn't know if she's going to go back to pro wrestling. I think she ended up doing a thing uh, where she modeled some clothes probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And she still does pretty well for herself on her OnlyFans page. So I don't think we're going to see her anytime soon back in a wrestling ring. But I do certainly wish her luck. And, she did really well for somebody who came in to the wrestling industry where you're like going, all right, is this just, a Barbie? No, she took it seriously. She became a very solid performer and was pivotal to Toxic Attraction becoming a thing.
Not only that, but her work with Otis was fantastic. I love that storyline.
It's sad.
It was so well
there to see it at the end, and that they screwed up the story after.
Yeah. Well, that's WWE for you.
Well, that's WWE with Vince. They've been more consistently not screwing things over since Triple H has been more or less, more in charge for about 7 or 8 months, a little less in charge in the last few months. But thankfully, not that I wish ill on people, Vince had major spinal surgery and maybe isn't going to be making quite as many decisions about creative or content on TV in the near future. Although he's ready to do that again.
There was a college football head coach who got hurt. He got like his leg broken in the middle of the game or something like that. He got collided with a player. The following week at the home game, he was set up at the hospital across the street, and he was calling plays from his hospital room across the street from the stadium. That is what Vince McMahon is going to be doing at Titan Tower. He's got, let's see, who could push him around on a wheelchair? I'll go do it. I'll go push Vince around in a wheelchair. Oh, never mind. He's got Brother Love or Bucky Beaver can push him around. It's not like the damn builder's actually doing anything. You got so many people in WWE that are just like wasted talent. Just who haven't we said? What about Elias? Elias hasn't done anything. Let him freaking cart Vince McMahon around in the freaking thing. Where the hell is Elias?
He's walking with somebody.
I swear, if they bring back Ezekiel, I'm gonna puke.
He's gonna puke.
I'll find a different means of watching professional wrestling because I'll continue to watch Collision on Saturdays, but that's gonna be it.
All right, Afi, the person with the OnlyFans page was a former professional wrestler, Mandy Rose.
Yes.
Mandy Rose. Mike Rainey saying, I respectfully disagree with you guys. I thought her with Otis made no sense. Much made no sense. It was like that underdog story of the person who clearly, like, you're like looking at Otis like, dude, you're like a 4.5. Mandy Rose is a 10.
4.5.
But you sit there and you look at him and you're like going, yeah, man, you're reaching up. And it was that underdog story, and you're like, yeah, I want to see him succeed. And the fact that, like, that kiss ended up in front of the fan
at the Thunderdome, brother.
And then you break him up from his tag team partner, and then you split them up and put them on different brands so they can't actually have like a real true blood feud to like say, screw you, dude. Like, we were brothers, and now like you decided to go your own way because of whatever. They screwed the whole storyline up, and that's all Vince. All right, Mike Rainey also saying Bucky Beaver is too busy sticking his nose up Vince's backside, which is probably why he needed spinal surgery.
He had to remove the beaver. He was so far up his ass, they had to remove him from his spine.
Spinal.
And when they opened up his butt cheeks, Bruce Pritchard come out and said, "I love you."
And just give me a second.
You're fine.
I did send a message out to you and F and Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe earlier this week, talking about something that Bucky Beaver is actually good for. So the state of California is aiming to tap beavers, once considered a nuisance, to help with water issues during wildfires. Kevin Dunn is useful.
No, he's not.
Needs to be in the right part of the country, and he needs to do his damn job.
Where did all the damn cameras go? We're gonna get some damn bait.
Yeah.
How do I get out of this damn dam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So they did. There were some bits and pieces in the dirt sheets out there saying that they believe that WrestleMania 41 will be held in Minneapolis. I have a specific thought for why they're going to be in Minneapolis. But Brainless One, I want to hear from you first. What do you think about Minneapolis and WrestleMania 41?
How do you not do it in Minneapolis? That stadium in Minnesota is incredible. You got to do it there. When was the last time? Have they ever done a WrestleMania in Minnesota? If they have it, it's due time.
I don't think they have, and this is my belief.
Brock Lesnar.
It will be Brock Lesnar's retirement match
against Braun Breaker, and that's how you build him up with Paul Heyman. Boom!
There you go. There you go. But I think specifically, I'm sure Minneapolis has wanted WrestleMania before. They know that Brock Lesnar is near the end of the road here. He thought that he had retired already. He stated, I think it was in his McAfee interview before WrestleMania, I think 38,
yep,
that he thought he was retired. He was like, my first match was when nobody was there, and I thought my last match being at WrestleMania 36 in front of nobody, I thought it was a perfect, beginning and ending to the career. He's like, yeah, then they backed up the truckload of money, and okay, here I am, I'm back. But I think at this point, we're going to be 5 years beyond that. If he was thinking about retiring then, clearly it's more on his mind now. He's made more than enough money. He has investments outside of what he makes for his salary. I can't think of a better way or place for Brock Lesnar to have a retirement match. I don't know if there's a retirement match, but I think his last match is a semi-regular performer will be at WrestleMania next year in Minneapolis, or in a year and a half in Minneapolis.
Unless they plan on retiring him, or not retiring him, but putting him in the Hall of Fame in Minneapolis. Look, they just put Rey Mysterio in at 39, and he's still wrestling. He's fighting Santos Escobar tonight for the number one contendership. It's a fight Austin Theory either at SmackDown before SummerSlam or at SummerSlam or whatever they're going to do. But,
right.
It's... I don't know what... It's intriguing because it is Minnesota and because that's where Brock Lesnar is from. I've heard it from both sides of the coin. I've heard it, well, this could be where he ends his career, and this all could be also be where he goes into the Hall of Fame. But
Could be
here's the thing.
Ric Flair.
But here's the thing. Do we really think he's going to fully retire?
I don't think he would fully retire. I think he'd come back for like a Royal Rumble appearance or maybe a one-off at WrestleMania. But I mean, he's been fairly regular for a year and a half, 2 years. He doesn't wrestle all the time on TV, but he's on TV fairly regularly. Honestly, he's probably on TV more often now than when he was champion.
Yep. That early run, we couldn't even get him to show up more than like maybe a handful of times a year. And people were so pissed off, and I'm like, yeah, why don't you go tell Brock Lesnar that you don't like the fact that, he's not there as champion. Take the title from him. Go ahead. I dare you. But
hey, I hear that that's what they're going to try to hire Kenny Omega to do.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I have read rumors today that the chances of Twinkle Toes McFingerbang and the Hardy Boys joining WWE is slim to none, and that they will be re-signing with AEW pretty soon, I guess, or if they haven't already.
Yeah.
I could not be happier. I don't need to watch wrestling on Wednesdays. It's not. Once Orange Cassidy is done wrestling, and now that they got him going up against Plumber Mox, oh my God! I really, truly want to sit in that podcast room with James E. Cornette and Brian Last. If they do it together, I don't know if they do. I think they do it from two separate locations, like we do. But I want to sit in that room with James E. Cornette when Brian Last asks him about Orange Cassidy.
Pockets and Plumber.
The AEW mascot Pockets versus Plumber Mox for the All Atlantic Championship or All International Championship. And I swear he's gonna find a way to retain that championship. If Orange Cassidy successfully defends that championship against Jon Moxley, I will guarantee he wins my Wrestler of the Year.
Okay.
All right.
Rank saying upper management high on Escobar. I could see him getting a semi-big push, possibly a U.S. title run.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. He's beating Rey Mysterio tonight. He's going to fight Theory either next week on SmackDown or at SummerSlam or the week after on SmackDown. He's going to beat Austin Theory for the United States Championship because he is going to take over as the top babyface.
The LWO.
Yeah, he's going to take over as the number one babyface for Latinos. And kind of just, this is sort of Rey passing the torch to Santos Escobar. Yeah. And I'll tell you now, I'm glad we mentioned it too, because over the weekend, WWE broke a couple of records in Mexico City. They did a couple of house shows Saturday and Sunday. They broke the attendance record for WWE in Mexico City, and they also had their highest revenue weekend in Mexico City.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a WrestleMania in the next handful of years in Mexico City.
I think they're going to give them a Summerslam, or maybe instead of having it in Puerto Rico for Backlash, maybe they do Mexico City. Instead of Clash at the Castle, maybe they. No, I'm not going to say that. Never mind. But I could see them doing like a major pay-per-view in Mexico City. Why don't they do Money in the Bank there?
And I don't know if it's the whole, like, they don't want to mess with AAA and they don't want to mess with CMLL. I don't think they have, like, this, like, band of brothers kind of, bond with either of those companies, but I also think they don't want to piss them off too much. But even so, like, there is there's a big tradition of wrestling in Mexico, and it wouldn't be the worst idea to have a show there because those crowds would be loud. Quite honestly, I think they should do WrestleMania in somewhere like Brazil. Those crowds would be bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And if you're, one of the things for having a WrestleMania and not having it in England was because of, the time difference. Like, we don't want to have WrestleMania at 3 in the afternoon.
Yes,
Well, guess
we
what?
do.
If you in Brazil, you don't really have to deal with that as much. Like, their time's a bit ahead of ours, but not as much. And you would get a rabid fan base to watch that. I would say probably similar to what we saw in Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely bonkers. I would love to see it. Mike Rainey saying Elite have come out and basically confirmed that they are not leaving AEW.
My heart weeps.
Yeah.
Speaking of AEW, last week I it was on Collision actually last week. We got the House of Black defending the Trios Championships against the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. At the end of the match, Billy Gunn ate the pinfall. Malachi Black went up to him, whispered something to his ear. Billy Gunn took his boots off and left the ring. If you had asked his sons, the Ass Boys, they had tweeted out after it happened saying, I know we're not on the same page, but we love you and God bless on a great career and all that stuff. Is Billy Gunn retired or is this a work?
I think this is a work.
Is
like, usually you build up to something like that. I don't know. Maybe Billy's one of those dudes who, like, I just randomly want to go out and, like, no big parade. I don't need to have it at all out or all in or double or nothing. I just want to go out how I want to go out. I don't think that's the case. I think the Acclaimed are going to convince him to come back, or his sons are going to convince him to come back and do something. That's my belief.
Maybe he retired as an in-ring performer because he had enough with AEW, so he's going to go back and reunite with all of his other members of DX and run the show like everybody else does. Because Billy Gunn knows if people are going to listen to him, it'll be in WWE.
Well, I mean, there's that, and quite honestly, for a guy at his age, he is in incredible shape, and I think I might be wrong with this. They just officially signed Chris Hero to a full-time contract. Maybe there's not going to be as much food back in catering for him to keep the size that he really wants. Daddy Ass needs to have a certain amount of calories so he could sit there and lift and be big and strong, and he could still be Mr. Ass. And maybe Chris Hero being there, I mean, as we know, because of Nigel McGuinness, Chris Hero can gain 75 pounds within 15 minutes.
While working in a wrestling match. Yeah.
Mark's Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe chiming in with a yeah. Yeah.
How about this? Think about this. What's more mind-blowing? The fact that Billy Gunn is the last person still wrestling out of everybody in D-Generation X, or the fact that Smoking Guns Billy Gunn is still wrestling almost 30 years later.
I mean, X-Pac could still wrestle. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about somebody who's consistently gone out there and performed, like, Billy Gunn was the Vanguard Championship Wrestling champion here in Hampton Roads.
The one Billy Gunn.
That's a couple notches higher than Hampton Roads Championship Wrestling. They wrestle in the Masonic Temple down here in Norfolk. And he was champion here for a little while. But, Billy Gunn kept himself in shape and kept himself doing the thing he loves, and he'll come out and tell you, like, yeah, I had some issues with some substances, uh, but, and I'm sure in part that's why he continued to wrestle, but, he hasn't mailed it in. The dude is still working out and still trying to put in best effort he can. For some dude who's, I'm gonna guess at this point he might be in his early 60s. Dude still looks really good and doesn't embarrass himself in the ring. So I don't think it's the end of the road for him. I think this is just a storyline.
He's either 58 or 59. He hasn't turned 60 yet.
Okay.
Could you imagine, though, like the Road Dogg right now getting in a wrestling match?
No. I mean, when he and Billy Gunn won the tag team titles, what was it, like 7 or 8 years ago? I'm like, going, yeah, they still look pretty good. Like, at this point, Road Dogg looks like he's eating that Road Dogg. If I'm being fair. I mean, everybody ages, and at some point, I know I'm going to blow up. El Jefe was really happy that he tuned in time for the Chris Hero talk. Again, 75 pounds in 15 minutes or less. Thank you, Nigel.
Even Joey Chestnut didn't gain that much weight doing the hot dog eating contest.
No, and not in the last 16 years has he gained that much.
Nope. Only Cassius Ohno.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, no.
The Road Dogg. And then you see Bart Gunn, too. You see Billy Gunn, and then you see bombastic or bodacious Bart Gunn from the new Midnight Express.
The winner of Brawl for All.
Bart Gunn, who got knocked out by Butterbean in like 12 seconds. Which reminds me, next week's episode of Dark Side of the Ring is another Vince Russo episode. It wasn't enough that
bro.
It was one thing for us to have to rewatch the Brawl for All. But now they're going to make us watch Bash at the Beach 2000.
Bro. I wonder
what the hell
he is going to have something to say about that.
They should just have Cornette and Russo do the whole thing.
That was not the year that Hulk Hogan wrestled 400 days, right?
No, that was the year Hulk Hogan, where Jeff Jarrett laid down and Hogan pinned Jeff Jarrett to win the World Heavyweight title, and then he got pissed off and threw a temper tantrum in the World Heavyweight Championship and walked out. And then the next time we saw him, he was back in WWE.
And he tried to talk.
And it's just my favorite part was he went back to WWE as NWO, and it doesn't matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how hard you try, Hulk Hogan, you will never, ever, ever be Hollywood Hogan in WWE. You will forever be the immortal Hulk Hogan.
Brother.
The only place on planet Earth that he has been cheered in every single time he's been in the ring was in the WWF and WWE. Brother. Even when he called the Superdome the Silver Dome.
Right.
Or MetLife Field. Or the
Hulk Hogan, the gift that keeps on giving.
Or the fact that
you know what? I'm gonna be in that area in December. I think I might need to go to the Hulkster's restaurant just so I can sing some bad karaoke and really, like, what was it, Joey Janela that did that?
Oh God, yes, I think that's what it was. Jelly
American. You know, maybe I'll sing Real American karaoke at his bar.
Should sing Creed.
Can you take me higher? Together, dude. going on a cruise from Miami to Nassau.
Yeah?
I cannot wait till they go on a stadium tour with Nickelback.
Oh, God.
Oh, we're going out tonight. Nickelback,
Yeah.
the one of the longest reigning Raw theme songs ever.
Probably the most tolerable Nickelback song of all time, too.
Yeah?
You have to smoke a lot of pot to forget that Nickelback sings that intro for Monday Night Raw. But every once in a while, it'll play in my head. But then again, Papa Roach did it, too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So, bouncing around a little bit. So we had Blood and Guts about a week and a half ago. And one of the biggest things was like, hey, we got Kota Ibushi. Ibushi did not look good. He looked like he had a lot of ring rust. And according to him, he's like, yeah, I wear thin ring boots, and there was all sorts of thumbtacks and glass and all that crap around the ring. So he was super tentative. This is what he's saying. Do you believe that's bullcrap, or do you think the Yakuza said, all right, you look like crap, or we kill you?
Jay, I really thought that I was going to wait until the very last thing we were going to talk about before I do the Curtis Axel bit, before I actually got to mention Blood and Guts from over a week and a half ago being my brainless for this week. But apparently, we are definitely going to discuss this. First of all, Kota Ibushi looks like he took Take a Shit's Cinnabon membership card and just went absolutely ham at every Cinnabon in the United States. Because he looked doughy. He looked terrible. They gave him a video before he entered last into the Blood and Guts match. He took Roman Reigns long to get into the ring. Why did you need the bed of nails on top of that? Why did you need the broken glass? That is stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. And by the way, with Kota Ibushi, thank you for mentioning him, the fact that he just randomly just laid down after the match into the fucking ring full of thumbtacks just to take the bump.
It's like the blow up doll all over
I,
again.
I don't understand. Because I'm certain, I don't know what the rating was. Because I can't with this fucking so-called wrestling writer that's coming out and saying that if you're not a fan of what Kenny and the Twinkle Toes and the freaking Harley Boys are doing, then you don't know professional wrestling and you're just kind of stuck in the past. What part about that match was entertaining? What part about that match was professional wrestling? Jon Moxley, you are not Abdullah the Butcher. Just because you bleed every match doesn't make you Abdullah the Butcher. The only reason people don't give you the same reaction is because you're not a monster, Mox.
You're a plumber.
You are a plumber. You had two guys walk out of the match to Keebler Elf and take a shit. Clearly, he had to go take a shit, which is why he left the match. But this goes hand in hand with what I said about Tony Khan, the fact that he doesn't know how to book any of the big guys other than Dino Man. Who, out of everybody in that match, came out looking and smelling like roses? There has not been a match that Nikki, Maddie, and Kenny have performed in that I have been entertained and said, this is good shit. Never. Whether it's the exploding sneaker or not, they just don't do it for me. And this match, start to finish, over an hour, was not it. It was stupid. It was unnecessary. It was dragged out, and I feel like I'm dumber now as a wrestling fan because I actually had to endure that. And it is because of that match that I, the brainless one, am renouncing my rights to watch AEW Dynamite every Wednesday outside of Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. I have no reason to watch that show anymore, especially now that they've come out and said, "Oh, we're going to resign," because wherever they were going, I wasn't watching.
Yeah.
I don't know. He looked doughy. Like, do you remember what he looked like in the Cruiserweight Classic in 2016? He had abs.
He was ripped.
It was either him or Cedric Alexander was the most ripped person in the entire tournament. I think it was Ibushi. You could have broke your hand punching him in the gut. Now you got to be afraid he's going to eat you. What the fuck has he been doing since he disappeared from New Japan? Hiding from the Yakuza? Were they feeding him sushi? I don't understand this. I don't understand. Donuts? Okay, that makes sense. Have all the donuts you can eat.
We've run out of donuts.
They did all this pomp and circumstance for this shit. And they booked it the way they did between the hour plus long that it took to do the stupid match. And then the fact that they were upset because they were trying to show respect and appreciation for each other after being in a blood war. They shook hands. And the Elite and Moxley were mad because it didn't make it to live television. And then you go and you question why. Like Triple H to Shawn Michaels. Well, they exploited the business by having that moment in Madison Square Garden where they killed kayfabe when the Clique had their little moment and they hugged at the end of the match before Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went to go form the NWO in WCW. You have been in this months-long feud where you've done blood and guts and every other chaotic type of match you could possibly do with each other. And we're supposed to believe that after an hour plus of beating the shit out of each other, that you're all just going to shake hands and like, hey, that was great. I don't get it. How do their fans, especially Dave Meltzer, how can they justify this crap that they constantly put out and call it professional wrestling?
The only thing I will say is the fans vote by watching or not watching. People tuned in for it. They got a higher rating than they had had in several weeks by having the blood and guts match and by having Ibushi and having all of that go on. Whether or not this is just like, a one-off blow-off where like they got a higher rating, I guess we'll see. My guess is it probably was a one-off.
The fact that after they won Blood and Guts last week, and they weren't even on the show this week, I doubt they're going to be on Rampage tonight. I saw the tag team battle royal that's going to determine the number one contenders of whoever wins between FTR and the team of Adam Cole, baby, and MJF.
Yeah.
And that's, if you want to talk about a who's of those tag teams. I think the most established tag team was the Butcher and the Blade. Or Daddy Magic and the other clown that didn't make it in NXT. And they showed up with freaking Daniel Garcia, the man of 1,000 faces.
Right.
They're doing Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh. Jeff Jarrett's not even going to be in the match.
He's going to be playing. Oh, wait. I don't even know if he can play guitar.
He sang that song.
Oh, wait. No, he didn't.
With My Baby Tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know?
You went to the clothes
for somebody.
All right, on a news note, WrestleMania tickets go on sale August 18th. So, Brainless One, are we going night one or night two or both?
I have to sell one of my kidneys to go to WrestleMania this year. So,
All right, so night one it is.
yeah.
We're going to go there and we're going to hang out at the Rocky Balboa statue next to Vince Papali, and and we're also, you know what? Honestly, I know it's not quite the right time of the season, but I think one of us should go dressed as Santa
No,
to see what happens.
no, because I remember what happened the last time Santa Claus showed up at that stadium.
Hey, towns change, maybe.
Jay, what was it that I read? There was like a freedom robot that went and traveled the entire world where people went and they brought it to every country and it went through every country unfazed until it got to the United States. Take a wild guess which city it got destroyed at.
Philadelphia, city of brotherly love.
Oh, yeah.
I love you.
Well, they have to put that because they can't go Philadelphia, city of cheesesteaks.
Right.
Or multiple time Super Bowl champions.
Right. On another news note, I think we might have to figure out a way to see this. The 35th anniversary of the iconic, the incredible, and oh, by the way, the fight is still going on even though he's not alive anymore, between Roddy Piper and Keith David in the movie They Live. They Live will be back in theaters this September for a short run to celebrate the 35th anniversary of that movie. What say you, Brainless One?
I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of bubble gum.
Yeah.
The single greatest fight scene in the history of cinema, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
That's probably one of, if not the greatest performance by any professional wrestler in a movie, was Roddy Piper and They Live. Batista could definitely give him a run for his money as Drax the Destroyer, and maybe John Cena as Peacemaker. But
hey, so Peacemaker is about to be a playable character in Mortal Kombat, the video game. I don't know if it's going to be looking exactly like John Cena, but Peacemaker in Mortal Kombat. And the almighty Bobby Lashley said he would love and thinks it would do box office if he had a match against the Animal Batista. I kind of sort of agree with him that it would do box office, but I definitely believe it will not happen. Not know how. Batista is more of a man of his word than most professional wrestlers. When he says he's retired, I'm retired. I believe him, and he felt that he owed Triple H after all those years of Triple H helping him out. He was like, you know what, my last match should be against Triple H, and it should be at WrestleMania. He got that opportunity. He closed out his career against Triple H. I don't see him coming back no matter what the money is. I think Batista has done fine for himself and does not need a big paycheck. And nor do I think he cares for a big paycheck.
he is retiring as Drax the Destroyer because he said he can't handle being Drax the Destroyer anymore. I highly doubt we ever see Batista wrestle inside a wrestling ring. However, we will see him in a WWE ring, just not wrestling. But I'm glad that you mentioned the Bobby Lashley, because 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, Bobby Lashley showed up in a limousine and approached Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins of the Street Profits brought him into his limo and took him for a ride. Then last week on SmackDown, Bobby Lashley was seen backstage talking to Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Do you think that this is foreshadowing that we possibly could be getting a new faction in WWE, and that, and if this is the case, who do you think ends up being in this faction that Bobby Lashley is seemingly trying to put together?
I wouldn't mind seeing Bobby Lashley as head of a faction and carrying the weight and trying to bring other people forward. If they got Carmelo Hayes, if they got the Street Profits in on this, I think the end goal with all of this, nothing against all the other performers, would be to get Montez Ford over. In the end, it would end up leading to Bobby Lashley versus Montez Ford at something like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and hopefully would be the launch pad to bring him to the next level.
Main event Montez Ford.
And I wouldn't mind seeing that. And I would hope that they would actually book it for longer term than what they did with the Hurt Business. Hurt Business was broken apart way too soon.
Agreed.
A hell of a lot more they could have done with that. I mean, think about it. What if we ended up having the Hurt Business together for a bit longer and we ended up with the Bloodline versus the Hurt Business? That could be a Survivor Series thing. That could be a Tag Team Championship thing. That could be a Universal Undisputed Heavyweight Championship thing. They could have done an awful lot with that, and they broke it apart way before its expiration date.
Agreed. I was pissed when they did it too. Love the Hurt Business. But I would love to see him and Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins working together. I don't know if, because I know a lot of people from NXT were there because there was like somebody was sick, or there was a virus going around backstage, so a lot of people couldn't show up, and because they were in Orlando, that they could have the people from NXT show up, and that's why we saw, who we saw from NXT. But honest to goodness, I wouldn't even mind if they did Dawkins Ford and they put Omos with them as a
right.
As a very proud supporter and a Omos sapien. I would love to see my man Omos come back into WWE. I miss seeing him as much as I miss seeing Elias.
Yeah.
And honestly, could you imagine if they did that? And maybe the reason that they kind of, when they did was because MVP is not a spring chicken anymore. And him being one of the four guys was probably not going to, what is MVP going to do? You got basically Bobby Lashley could go head-to-head with Roman Reigns. You're going to have Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin go head-to-head with Jay and Jimmy Uso. MVP at 50 is not going to be handling Solo very well. But if you switch it up a little bit, and you got Bobby Lashley that goes after Mr. Roman, and then you have the Street Profits, who, in my opinion, are very similar and very much capable of taking out the Usos. This is obviously when the Bloodline was still fully together. But could you imagine Solo and Omos standing face to face? Solo just looking up, and he's not scared. He's fucking Solo.
Right.
I mean, it's just the whole thing of it. I do think they pulled the plug on that faction way too soon, and they could have gotten in. Just imagine if they actually got the Spooky Pals in the Hurt Business too. Spooky Pals.
You did mention Orlando, and that is one of the rumored sites possibly for Royal Rumble 2024. It's strongly rumored that we will see the Royal Rumble in the Sunshine State in Florida, whether it ends up being in Orlando, and it's a place where they hold the Citrus Bowl, or they possibly want to have it in Tropicana Field, which is where they had the Thunderdome during the COVID days. So, Central Florida or kind of Central South Florida on the Gulf Coast, that's where they're looking to have Royal Rumble. I think both places are fine. They're good wrestling areas.
Do you think Tropicana can withstand that many people showing up in the building?
I don't think so. Quite honestly, it's the building that I've been in that I feel that they cut as many corners as they possibly could because they just didn't want to spend the money.
That's
They
why it's a
made
circle.
home on an angle, I'm convinced, because they didn't want to pour the concrete to make it even. They're like, yeah, let's do it like this. That way, all these fly balls end up hitting in the catwalk, and we have these crazy things happen that never happened in any other stadium in all of baseball. Let's spare every expense. Let's have the crappiest stadium we can. Let's have our big presentation be a bunch of stingrays in center field and a bar in the left field, out of play.
By the way, those are the same stingrays that killed Steve Irwin. Maybe not the exact same ones, but that's what killed Steve Irwin.
They shouldn't have done that.
By the way, I have to add this. Fly ball caught.
Dynamite drop in, Monty.
Me? Take over, Monty. I'm in the bag.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, they've had WrestleMania in Orlando. I don't see why if they're going to do SummerSlam at Ford Field, I can see them doing it at the Citrus Bowl. They don't have to bring it to the dumpster that they call Tropicana Field. Why would you subject the American Nightmare to have to wrestle in that shithole?
Yeah.
And people in Oakland are crying about losing their team. Tampa Bay should have lost their team years ago.
Yeah.
Should have moved them to Connecticut. Told them the yard goats. By the way, speaking of Hartford sports, and Timmy did mention that he is going to be at Collision tomorrow in Hartford. CM Punk actually did put on his Facebook story, he said, we'll be in Hartford tomorrow. Can't wait to see you all there. I wonder how many Whaler sweaters am I going to see?
If I were there, I would wear one.
He's already trying to he's trying to win over Hartford.
Hey, if CM Punk is the reason why the Whalers come back, I'll do a 180 on him. Until he gets the Whalers back. No. I mean, I don't live in the state anymore, but I'll do a 180 on Ned Lamont if he gets the Whalers back.
Peter Carmona shows up in Hartford. It's like that scene where they kill Sonny Corleone in The Godfather.
He's going to get stuck at the toll booth and on the causeway thing,
The 95.
Yep.
Should have paid the toll, Peter.
Yep.
Oh, shit. I thought that was awesome that he mentioned that, though.
So it looks like the Vaudevillains are reuniting on the indie scene. So this is my hope. That the Vaudevillains somehow end up on the same card as Bobby Fish.
Wait, is this so that for the first time ever, Bobby Fish could be on the same card as not only Simon Gotch, but Carl Gotch?
Frank Gotch.
Or Frank Gotch.
Yeah.
And Carl Gotch.
Would be the first one to have a wrestling match against pro wrestling relatives 100+ years apart. I mean, he trained Frank Gotch. In one way, shape, or form, he trained Simon Gotch.
And in one way, shape, or form, he also trained Abraham Lincoln.
I mean, he beat Abraham Lincoln.
The only loss on his record.
Yeah. And
Abraham Lincoln
he was a vampire hunter. Abraham Lincoln wasn't anything to mess with. Bobby Fish took him down.
Of course he did.
That's why on Egyptian hieroglyphs you see symbol. See at the top there?
Yes.
That's a fish. That's for Bobby Fish.
He put it there. Oh, that's tremendous.
He was there when the pyramids were built.
He was technically the fourth wise man when Jesus was born.
Yeah. He was. They don't want to talk about him because, he's like, I don't want them to know I was here.
Hell, why do you
I'm
think?
just keeping this for me.
How do you think they knew what to name all the dinosaurs? It's because Bobby Fish was still around after the dinosaurs went extinct. Yeah, that's a Stegosaurus. Yeah, that's a Brachiosaurus. Triceratops. Yes, that's it. How do you know this, Bobby?
How do you know that? He's like, I was here with Ringo Starr prehistoric times, millions and millions and millions of years ago. It was me, Ringo Starr, Cain, Abel,
And Fred Flintstone.
my mom, Adam and Eve, and we were just hanging out here, and this is what we called them.
Yeah. I wonder if he wrestled Julius Caesar too.
You never know. Back then, I think the rulers of kingdoms wanted to make sure that they actually were like, they were legit the man.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's like King T'Challa, he needed to make sure he showed his people like, yeah, there's a reason I'm the Black Panther. I could kick all y'all's asses. I bet Julius Caesar was like that. I bet Bobby Fish maybe even trained him.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Originator of the Greco-Roman wrestling technique. So when they talk about the Roman Empire and Greco-Rome and that wrestling, you know what? Kurt Angle can't hold a candle to Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish invented it.
What, professional wrestling or the candle?
Both.
And it's funny that you mentioned the vaudevillains because it always makes me think of one of the worst segments they ever did in professional wrestling, and that was the Old Day segment. Would it be better if they did it with the bygone era for Bobby Fish?
Yes. Yes.
They could have went back to the 1400s.
When he sailed the ocean blue at Columbus.
Yes.
Came to the New World, which he had already been to several thousand years before, when he helped create the civilization of the Aztecs and the Mayans.
Is it ever going to get old?
And those like mounds that the Native Americans made?
Yes.
He started
Bobby Fish.
that. It was Bobby Fish. Yeah.
He was there for the Louisiana Purchase too.
Yeah, he went with Lewis and Clark across the country. And then when James Dutton went with his family across to Montana to set up the Dutton Ranch and create the whole Yellowstone thing, Bobby Fish was there.
I heard
he was the head ranch hand.
I heard he was on the boat with Magellan as they went around the world, and it was actually his call to leave Magellan in the Philippines and finish the trek, and he was the only one that made it back.
Has the White Devil found the bones of Magellan?
He's the one that told me. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, don't worry about Magellan. Yeah,
I
that's
got
something
him.
you probably don't want to tell your 18-year-old kid that that's what they did to Magellan. After he just learned what he learned in school, and it's like, yeah, this is what happened. But don't worry, son. In about 3 years, you're going to be single-handedly the Grim Reaper of horses without even trying.
Yeah.
Yeah? Sounds like
Speaking of,
once.
I there is a meet that's going on for the next month and a half, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I think, maybe you deserve another opportunity at redemption to see whether or not you really are the angel of death.
Look, okay? I will take claim to the horse at Saratoga, okay? It's not my fault that the Trump horse decided to croak coming down the stretch.
It's my favorite. It really is.
Oh, if you just weren't, that's because just because you weren't at the time I was at Northampton Fair and the plow horse fucking croaked going down the stretch.
Or at Belmont. Or the time you set off the fire alarm at Colonial
I did
Downs.
not set up the fire alarm at Colonial Town. Yep.
Instead of sacrificing a horse, we had a fire alarm.
Yep. My father was like, yep, that's why I knew you were there. You set off the alarms. Of course you were there. Yep. Thank you, Dad. El Diablo Blanco.
Yeah. Let me talk to you.
Yeah.
So, one, Buff Bagwell, there's been conflicting reports in out there this week. One of which said that he got pulled over for DUI and speeding. That's what a report was out there. Buff Bagwell said, refuted that claim, said he had, I forget if he said he went out of state or out of an area where he was supposed to based off of, his sentencing for one of his priors. He said he did not properly inform the authorities of what he was doing, but maintains that he has been 11 months sober. DDP actually tweeted congratulating Buff on 11 months sober. What say you as far as this? Do you believe that Buff is still clean, or do you think maybe he's fallen in bad habits?
I don't know. If I really could, I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt. My favorite part, and I laughed about this, and I probably shouldn't have, was that the 2 consecutive posts I've seen about Buff Bagwell. The first one was he was on the cruise of Jericho, and then 20 minutes later, I see he got arrested. I said, "Is Marty Jannetty on this boat trip too?" I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, just because he worked with DDP. And if you work with DDP, you're going to get over whatever the hell is bothering you because it's DDP. He fixed Mick Foley, for crying out loud, as best as he could. That man was a mess.
As best as he could.
Same thing with Scott Hall.
Best as he could. Scott Hall, I mean, I've said this many times on the podcast. I was there in 2010 where I thought he was going to die. I was there in Fall River, Massachusetts, when he was at the Independent show, where he was high out of his gourd, and they had to, he was doing photos with the fans where they were charging for it, and his eyes were rolling into the back of his head like the Undertaker, except for he wasn't meaning to do it. They had to snap their fingers over the camera like you would for a dog or a little child to get his attention. They were charging money for autographs, and let me show you what his autograph looked like. That was his autograph that he was charging $20 for. I thought I was going to see the dude die that night. He ended up getting another 10 years of life, in big part because Diamond Dallas Page helped him get his shit together. My personal belief is the Buff is still clean and sober, and that he's still got his shit together, and I hope that's so. I really do. You know, a lot of times with people who are addicts, you know, they're very good at lying, cheating, and stealing, and lying, and just in general lying to people because, you know, they're ashamed of their addiction.
Right.
I hope he's got his stuff together. I pray he's got his stuff together. I believe he has his stuff together because, as you said, DDP gets everybody clean.
Never liked DDP as an in-ring performer. I have all the respect in the world for what he's done with DDP Yoga. It's good stuff, and he's helped so many people out over the years.
More than just professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
I mean, and even the ones that, you know, weren't like in bad shape, like AJ Styles, when he went to the Royal Rumble for his debut, his back was effed up. DDP fixed that. Sheamus, who's been, you know, dealing with spinal stenosis, but because he knows that it's happening, is able to work with it, and says that DDP Yoga has extended his career. You know, Chris Jericho, one of the biggest advocates of it, like that dude's been almost never injured, but said like, yeah, my body was starting to feel a certain way, and DDP Yoga, like, fixed it. So DDP does the shit, man.
Bang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I got for notes. Do you have anything else, Brainless One?
Really quickly, I was just thinking about this because we were talking about Sami Zayn and what they possibly could do with Kevin Owens, and this just dawned on me. Let's say they do go the route where they try to put Sami Zayn over and he becomes World Heavyweight Champion. Who do you think gets a louder pop if they became champion? Sami Zayn or L.A. Knight? Yeah.
At this moment, it's LA Knight.
I think it is.
But let me talk to you when those matches are happening. It's like, you know, will they get on fire again, be white hot? You know, will Sami Zayn get to that level again? I don't see how LA Knight is not going to maintain this. The dude is just so damn charismatic. Yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to bring up, it dawned on me. We have been doing this podcast for just a hair over 7 years now. This podcast has come a long way from the audio performances that we used to have that we were lucky to get 1 to 2 downloads to getting a cult of marks to follow us and tune in every single week to listen to you talk about wrestling and me ramble on like a lunatic. And in those 7 years of doing this podcast, we've had some incredible moments. We've had some not so incredible moments. We've seen you had perfect predictions. I've had perfect predictions. And we've even had a song or two.
Yeah.
But I decided that for this week, I have my top 10 list.
Okay.
And it is the top 10 moments that have happened in effing Mark's history.
All right.
Number 10, the Brainless One's Babe Ruth shot call of Nia Jax tearing both of her ACLs.
Yeah. I mean, that was something.
Number 9. Is that still the number 1 viewed video on YouTube?
I think so.
I'm going to watch it after the show now.
Okay.
Gotta pad those numbers. Number 9. We got blocked by Captain Cupcake on Twitter, or X, or whatever the fuck it's called now.
X.
X. Number 8. I only have 2 words for you. Curtis Axel. Number 7, the WrestleMania prediction show where Jesse's surprise appearance caught everybody off guard when he barged through the door with nobody. You guys got room for one more? Number 6. Yeah?
Yeah?
We got over.
Yeah?
Yeah? Number 5. The effing Y's.
Yeah?
Yeah? They're effing Marks Hall of Famers, and they are both deserving of being in the effing Marks Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And that's not the last time I mentioned an effing Marks Hall of Famer on this list either. Number 4. The day you were on the roof of the house in Portsmouth and you screamed,
Adam Cole, baby!
Adam Cole, baby!
Pretty good.
Number 3, take your pick, Edward 40 Hands. Number 2, fuck me, the Man-O-Lantern.
Before we get to number 1, I just want to put an honorable mention in here. Clash 13.
Oh! 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 Oh no! I forgot about that. That is the ultimate. Yeah, it was either that or the other honorable mention was the fact that we almost got tarred and feathered at the Hampton Roads Championship Wrestling show, where the Black Russians cut a promo on the 2 of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Cousin Jay, you heard what number 10 through number 2 was. What is the single greatest moment in F&M Marks podcast history?
The 5-star dog splash.
Not only was that the greatest moment in podcast history, that was a top 10 moment in my life because the timing on it was just that was really our Bobby Heenan. Oh, Hacksaw Jim Duggan is an intelligent man. That was our intelligent man. That was Titus O'Neil flying under the ring because we couldn't hold it in for 20 straight minutes. In fact, the entire podcast we couldn't even hold it in because we couldn't believe it was like the Red Sox game where the dude, tickled his girlfriend's boob, and then Orsillo and Remy couldn't hold it in for like 3 innings straight. That was, and it just, wow. I mean, everything about that was perfect. It was the greatest frog splash I had ever seen, and that isn't because it was Bugsby that got hit with the frog splash. Dixie was textbook on that and will forever be remembered as the greatest moment in podcast history.
Yep.
Very well deserving, too.
Yes.
For the F&M Marks Hall of Famer.
Yes.
And now Luda's going to go pee on my pillow because she's not in.
Well, I mean, you got to earn it.
Yes. Very true. But that's all I got. I think it's time for our good, our bad, and our brainless.
All right. Yeah.
What do you got for your good this week, Cousin Jay?
I think I'm going with Heyman referring to Cody Rhodes as the 4th best member of the Rhodes family in the wrestling ring. It was vintage Heyman in every way where, like, oh, you're trying to goad me into saying something that's going to, like, get you clicks on your page. I'm not going to do that. Cody Rhodes is an outstanding performer. He's the 4th best in his family. Like, perfect. So
That's good shit, pal.
I'm in goading and completely accepting, even though denying acceptance of goading into calling out Cody Rhodes and saying he's not good.
Yeah?
Yeah! What do you have for your good brainless one?
Braun Brecker.
Okay.
Braun Brecker on Tuesday, he's just been going around and just beating the shit out of everybody. Well, Von Wagner had a match with, I don't even know, don't even really care. I don't even care the fact that I had to watch it. But as he was about to attack his opponent after the match and put him through a table, Braun Brecker speared the shit out of him and was going to hit him with a concerto until Robert Stone stopped him. I know that he is knee deep in one of the more impressive heel runs I've seen from a young and up-and-coming star, but that was definitely the most face thing I've seen him do since he first stepped into an NXT ring. So Braun Brecker spearing Von Wagner. You got my good for this week.
Okay.
What do you got for your bad?
All right. I'm going with CM Punk. Hey, I know you don't like the Young Bucks. Don't know what you have personally against, Matt Jackson's wife. I know she made a mistake, cost the company money. Unless she, peed in your cereal, there's really no reason that you need to personally, in front of all of your fans and followers, need to call her out. It's petty, and you should be better than that. I would have thought that you would have learned from all the crap that you went through in the last year. Like, is this really worth it? Like, how is this bettering your life? How is this bettering the life of a professional, wrestling fan?
Right.
It's not. You're just being an asshole. So, CM Punk, you got my bad for this week. Act like a grown-up.
Especially because you're trying to make it seem like you're not like them and you're not stooping to their level because you've already had them at the advantage. You had the advantage over them anyway after the way they acted like in Chicago after Twinkle Toes came out and said, we got to put this in the past. We need to stop talking about it. So I agree right there that that's just him just stooping to their level. But for my bad this week, I'm going with Britt Baker versus Taya Valkyrie. That match was bad. Like drizzle shit's bad. Like Nia Jax versus Eva Marie bad.
Queen Charlotte.
Yes. Like Queen Charmel and oh god, I don't even want to remember. But I mean, Sting and Jeff Hardy Victory Road 2011 bad. It was horrible and honestly the people attacking Taya Valkyrie for her performance is not necessary. But it was still a bad match. I'm sorry. And it gets my bad for this week.
All right.
What do you, Cousin Jay, have for your brainless?
As much as CM Punk was a strong candidate to get brainless for me this week, I have to go with Kota Ibushi. The man has not been in the ring for very, very often for the last couple of years. You would think, being on such a large platform as AEW television, that you would have had yourself in the best shape of your life that you could get in without actually getting into the ring to make a good impression. And that's not what it was. And I don't know if it's just his style has caused some injuries that maybe he just can't get himself in shape like he used to. I don't know, but he just did not look good. And he wasn't trying to make any excuses about oh no, he said more or less, I can still do what I do at a high level. Yeah, there was this and this happening, and that's why I didn't look like myself in the ring. You know what? You'll get a pass or two, but if the next time you're in the ring you look like that again, it's probably about time for you to hang it up. All that being said, he gets my brainless this week. He had plenty of time to be prepared and do that match right. He was coming in as the cleanup man, and he didn't do well.
I'm just going to expand on that and just include all of Blood and Guts. That did not need to be over an hour long. You didn't need the extra pomp and circumstance to have Kota Ibushi be introduced to the thing. You didn't need to do the bed and nails spot. You didn't need to have the broken glass in the match. You didn't really need the thumb. I've been an advocate against thumbtacks in wrestling matches since the first time I saw a thumbtack in a wrestling match. I just don't fuck with that shit. The match dragged out.
You ever saw thumbtacks during the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Mick Foley? Because they said that that was the first time in a major spot in North America that thumbtacks were used.
I have yet to see that match. I need to watch that match. I don't think I've actually seen. I might have.
What?
It is a very good possibility.
Master thing.
I have to watch it. I'm pretty sure I've seen it. I'm only saying that I haven't seen it because I feel like that's the safer bet. Because I would rather say that I haven't seen it and then I go and watch it. And I'm like, oh yeah, now I remember this. Than to say, oh yeah, I remember this match, and then you're like, oh, what about? I remember him getting thrown.
Thrown off the cage? Oh, wait, I've seen it 5 million times.
I've seen him get choke slammed through the cage. I'm sure I've seen the match. Marijuana affects the brain. So it's very possible that I have seen the match at some point in my life, and I just forgot that I've seen it. I've probably forgotten more matches than I actually remember.
Yeah?
But certain ones I will remember forever. I really need to go and watch that one again. But anyway, the nail spot was terrible. The bed of nails was terrible. They filed that thing down. That didn't look like it hurt anybody. Then you had Ibushi lay back in the thumbtack. This is after he said, I didn't want to go full-fledged because I was wearing the very thin boots like Cousin Jay had mentioned. But then you're going to go and lay in the thumbtacks? And then you guys were butthurt because your handshake after the end of an actual blood feud was not shown on television. Really? I just can't do it anymore, Cousin Jay. I cannot do it with the plumber and the elite. Especially because now the plumber's going to take the championship from the greatest champion in AEW history.
Sad.
But if you like what you've seen, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter X, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like and follow, subscribe to us. We will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we go live, you will be notified that we are going live on the Facebooks. Also, we post these episodes on Spotify, so if you missed the episode, you can take us on the road with you and enjoy all that there is of the F and Marks.
Yeah?
So, yeah!
But the only thing, Cousin Jay, with that, and as great as it is that you could take us on the road, there's one problem with taking us on the road as opposed to watching us every week.
And what's that, brainless one?
That's because, yes, you can listen to the two of us talk about wrestling, the sport we love to hate. But the one thing that you would be missing out on is to see the most featured face in the history of this podcast. It is not you or I. It is a man that today, July 28th of 2023, at an astonishing 3,106 days, after March Hall of Fame, still alive, 2015 Royal Rumble.
Bow, 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 bow. Ba-da-dow,
all for episode 322 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, The F and Marks.
I'm Jay. He is
Brainless. Make sure you. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Brainless 1.
Wait.
Make sure.
Yeah.
Make sure you mark out
with your guaco. See everyone. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Yeah.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of SmackDown, y'all.
All right. See you, Brainless 1.
Later, cousin Jay. Yeah.
Yeah.